there are two essential tools that you really need to have to keep your doodle tangle and mat free the gentle way. All of these tools are gentle and effective. It's not just about progress and getting the tangles out, but also keeping your doodle still and comfortable enough to stay still so they won't change their mind and go under the bed when you grab the brush. So the two tools are the brush, a slicker brush with metal pins that have long enough pins to reach deep enough in summer and winter coats. It's super important. This is the number one mistake doodle parents do, that to get a brush that has too short pins, too many pins on a given surface, so they don't reach deep enough in the coat, and the top 80% of the coat is beautifully, perfectly brushed out, and there is a layer close to the skin that is totally matted up or has bunches of mats all around or patches of mats, and the haircut could not be even, or the doggy will need a short shave. So to prevent that, get a slicker brush with metal pins, long enough pins, 1.25 inch. I'm gonna include a link which one is this one. It's called the Big K from Chris Christensen, and this is the best tool I found on the market to deal with your doodle's coat care needs. I put a tennis grip on the handle to make it more comfortable for me. It's not a must, but I highly recommend it because you're gonna use it a lot, and this makes a huge difference. The other tool, what I highly recommend, is a comb. You can get any comb you want. It doesn't matter if it has a little curve or it's straight or longer or shorter, as long as there are quite some space between two pins. So you likely barely ever gonna use this end, unless your doggy has a very tiny amount of hair, which is pretty rare. So you can get any of these. The main thing to focus on is that the pins need to be nice and rounded up, so it's gonna be comfortable. Some combs come with a more pointy, pokey end, and some come with nice and rounded, thicker pins. Go with the thicker pins that are more comfortable for your doggy, so whenever you're reaching skin deep in the coat, your doggy will feel like it's a massage, not like poking. So it doesn't matter which one you use. You can have rubber handle, you can have metal handle, as long as the pins reach deep enough in your dog's coat. Given most doggies, most doodles have different coat length and thickness, summer and winter time, I highly recommend you to get two, one for summer or one for winter and one for winter, so it will cover your doggies. It will reach deep enough in your doggy's coat, regardless of the length. My favorite one are these two. They are very lightweight, metal, so they won't bend. You cannot use plastic things on your doodle because their coat is very thick, so they will just bend or break away straight up, so you don't want plastic stuff on your doodle. This is the number 2 tool. The brush is the number 1 tool. To gently remove tangles and mats and loosen them up, I highly recommend you start with the brush. The reason for that is because the pins move and wiggle. That means gentle release and loosening up of the coat when you are using it. So any pulling sensation will likely stop at the brush because the pins move and not end up directly on the skin. If you're using just a comb, the pins don't wiggle. So any pulling sensation will directly end up on your doggy's skin, making them to wiggle or even bite sometimes. So unless you're brushing your dog or combing your dog 3 times a day and they don't get water time or any kind of fun activities and they don't have adventure dust, dirt in their coat, I highly recommend you use the brush first and then a comb to follow up and search for any tangles and mats. This would be the very basic of how to brush and what to brush your doodle with. So now let's take a look at the doggy's body parts to make sure that you're gonna reach every single part on your doggy. One of the most frequent mistakes I see is clients don't reach either deep enough because of the wrong tool or hovering on the doggy's coat, in the doggy's coat, like not reaching deep enough because they are afraid to hurt the doggy or they don't have long enough pins or a combination of the two, and not reaching every single doggy part on their doodle. Now, to cover the second part, is you need to know how to hold the doggy, what body parts are there, because oftentimes clients just think about, oh, I'm going to brush the back of the doggy or the side of the doggy, and they forget about brushing the inner side of the legs or the back side of the legs or between the toes or the tail or the inner side of the ears, lip line, things like that. So if you want to make sure to cover every single body part on your doodle, here is how to go about the specific body parts. I'm gonna break this up in smaller sections, so it's gonna be bite-sized portion, so it will be easier for you to follow.